Be me, 23, probably what most people would call a feminist. Not the cartoon version people rant about online, just someone who cares about fairness and calls out macho bullshit when it shows up. And trust me, it showed up constantly. That's basically what this whole mess is about. Men in general, and one guy in particular, who I really thought was different. His name was Nate. I'd known Nate since sophomore year of college. He was always just kind of there, like a lamp in the corner. You stop noticing because it's always on, steady, familiar, weirdly comforting. Everybody described him the same way. Too sweet, that was always the word. Oh, Nate is so sweet. And yeah, he was also hopelessly into me for something like 6 years. Not secretly either, not even a little subtle. He texted me, "Good morning" every day, like it was a job requirement. I could post the dumbest selfie imaginable, and he'd like it almost instantly. Sometimes so fast it actually freaked me out. If I mentioned needing anything, he'd immediately offer to help ride somewhere. Groceries, advice, random favors, whatever. He was the first person I called whenever life did one of its little stupid disasters at the time. I honestly filed all of this under really good friend, like, wow, what a solid guy. Basically, the dream support person for any girl. All of this finally blew up a few months ago. At the time, I was seeing another guy. I'll just call him my boyfriend, because that's what he was, and he was absolutely nothing like Nate. He was exciting in that loud, bad-for-you kind of way, confident, magnetic, a little reckless, the kind of guy who walks into a place and makes people look up. He had presence, I'll give him that. What he did not have was emotional maturity. That was his personal flavor of toxic masculinity. Anytime I got upset, he acted like I'd handed him a bomb. He'd either go cold or get irritated so naturally. That's where Nate came in. I still remember one night, really clearly had to be around 1:30 in the morning. Maybe later, middle of the week, some miserable Wednesday kind of night, my boyfriend and I got into a huge argument over something unbelievably stupid. He wanted to go drinking with his friends. I wanted us to stay in together. He said I was trying to control him. I told him he had the emotional range of drywall, standard relationship, garbage. It escalated fast. Then he just grabbed his keys and left door slammed hard enough to shake the wall. I was wrecked, crying, pacing, feeling pathetic and abandoned. And the first person I thought to call wasn't any of my friends, wasn't my sister, wasn't anybody normal. It was Nate. I knew there was a good chance he'd be asleep. I also knew with complete certainty that he'd pick up anyway, and he did second ring voice all rough and sleepy. I didn't even ask if I woke him, just started unloading immediately. Everything came pouring out. How my boyfriend never really listened to me. How he always made me feel ridiculous for having feelings. How exhausting it was trying to be loved by someone who acted annoyed every time I needed reassurance. Nate just listened, never cut me off, never redirected the conversation back to himself. Just gave those little soft responses every so often. Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. The kind of sounds that let you know someone is actually there with you. He told me, I deserve better than this. He said, I was thoughtful and smart, and my boyfriend was too stupid to appreciate it. He stayed on the phone with me forever, at least an hour, maybe more, long enough for me to run out of tears and finally stop shaking, long enough for my breathing to settle down, enough that I could think about sleep before I hung up. I said something like, thanks, Nate. Seriously, you're the greatest. I don't know what I'd do without you. Then I ended the call and went to bed. Never once crossed my mind to ask how he was doing, or whether I dragged him out of a deep sleep before some important morning. That was the thing with Nate in my mind. He was just always fine, always available, always this stable little emergency service sitting in the background. That was our whole setup. My boyfriend handled the excitement part, the chemistry, the status, the thrill of dating someone hot and difficult. Nate handled the real stuff, comfort, support, reliability at the time. That arrangement seemed perfectly reasonable to me, honestly kind of ideal. And it wasn't only emotional support either. He was also my unpaid repair guy, my IT department, my moving crew. A while before everything imploded, I got really involved with this community organizing group. We were putting together a rally. And I was in charge of the signs and handouts, which meant, of course, my ancient printer chose that exact day to die full meltdown timing. I was freaking out because I had a deadline and stacks of stuff to print. So obviously I called Nate. He was at work when I called, didn't matter. He said he could come by on his lunch break, and he did showed up still wearing his office badge, and work clothes came into my apartment, crouched down by the printer, and spent forever messing with cables and ink and settings like a full hour. Easy. I hovered nearby the whole time, stressed and impatient, asking if he was almost done yet. While he was still trying to fix it, my boyfriend called me, and my entire personality changed in 2 seconds. Suddenly I was all cute voice and laughing and acting flirty, making plans for later that night, like I didn't have a half-dismantled printer and one loyal idiot kneeling on my floor. I basically forgot. Nate was even there. Eventually he got the thing working again. Somehow he had ink smudged on one hand and looked exhausted. I tossed out a quick, "Oh my God, you saved me." "Thank you," then immediately turned back to the design. On my laptop, didn't even really look at him. He stood there for a second, like he was waiting for something. I think he asked if I wanted to get coffee later, or maybe food, something small, some excuse to spend actual time together. I barely processed it, just muttered that I was slammed and couldn't. He nodded and left quietly too. I didn't walk him out, didn't stop what I was doing, didn't think twice looking back now. That should have registered. That probably should have been one of those moments. But back then it was just another day, just Nate doing Nate stuff. He was always finding little excuses to be around me, more texting that he was near my area, and asking if I wanted lunch, sending me articles he thought I'd care about, or songs he thought I'd like, always some small stream of attention coming my way, constant, steady, flattering attention. And yeah, I liked it. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. It was nice. It felt good having someone that devoted to me, like my own built-in audience, my own one-man hype squad, especially because my boyfriend gave me basically none of that. He didn't dote on me half the time. He seemed mildly confused by my existence. I'm pretty sure he forgot my birthday once and then argued that he basically remembered Nate. Meanwhile, remembered random details from stories I'd told years earlier. Stuff like the name of my childhood dog or what snack I always bought during finals. Weak, of course, there was always this thing sitting underneath all of it. The obvious thing, he wanted us to be more than friends. I knew it. He knew I knew it. Everyone around us knew it every few months. He'd get a little hopeful and try something nothing, huge, just enough to test whether the door was open. A compliment that leaned a little too intimate, a hug that lasted a beat too long, a look that said more than he was saying out loud. And I had a method for shutting that down, gentle but clear. I'd smile and hit him with, "You're such a great friend, Nate." Friend was the important word. The reset button, that one word put the whole situation back in its box. Sometimes I'd go with the other line, the one about valuing the friendship too much to ruin it. Classic move worked every time he'd back off. Look a little stung for a minute, then by the next day the good morning text would be back, like nothing happened, and I told myself that meant I was handling it the right way, that I was being considerate, that I was sparing him, by not giving false hope. I told myself I had been completely upfront about the boundaries. We were friends, close friends, sure, but still just friends in my mind. That made everything fine. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was being nice. If Nate kept imagining something bigger, that was on him. That was how I saw it. Some of my real friends did not see it that way at all. One of my girlfriends flat out told me I was using him, said it was messed up to keep him orbiting around me. Like that said it was selfish and kind of cruel. I got instantly defensive, like full-body defensive. I told her she didn't get it, that Nate and I had a unique connection, that people always assume a man and a woman can't be close unless sex or romance is involved. I actually went on a whole little rant about how that mindset was rooted in patriarchy, used that exact kind of language too. And at the time, I thought I sounded smart as hell, like I had completely won the argument. She stopped pushing after that. But even while I was saying it, something about it felt off, because if I was being honest, the truth was simpler and uglier. I needed him. I needed what he gave me when my boyfriend left me, unread for half a day. Nate answered immediately when I felt insecure. Nate would basically hand me a custom-written speech about how amazing I was. He was this endless source of reassurance, like a mirror, that only showed me the version of myself I wanted to believe in. And I did not want to lose that mirror. That was the real issue, because if I ever actually dated him, everything would shift. He wouldn't be this devoted constant anymore. He'd stop being the guy whose whole role was making me feel important. He'd become my boyfriend. And if I'm being brutally honest, I didn't want that. I wasn't attracted to him. He was kind, dependable, safe, predictable, all objectively, good qualities, great qualities for a family, crossover SUV, not the qualities I wanted in a guy I was sleeping with. I wanted chemistry, tension, some spark my boyfriend had, that my boyfriend was frustrating and exciting and hard to pin down. Nate was guaranteed, and guaranteed felt boring to me. That's the part I never said out loud. Back then, everything finally cracked around my birthday. This was a few months back, sometime in the fall. I had a little birthday thing at a bar. Nothing huge, just some friends, drinks, one long table, that kind of setup. My boyfriend came, and obviously I invited Nate too. Nate showed up carrying a gift bag. Inside was this beautifully wrapped present, like actual effort, not gift card energy. I opened it and just kind of froze for a second. It was an early edition of my favorite novel, not some random copy either, an actually special one, the kind of thing that had to cost real money, and he'd remembered I'd mentioned wanting it months earlier, just once. Probably I was genuinely moved. Like, for real, I hugged him and told him it was incredible, said thank you. This is so thoughtful, and I meant it. Then my boyfriend handed me his gift, and his was completely different. It was this expensive designer purse I'd pointed at in a store. Once super flashy, super obvious. The kind of gift meant to be seen. It wasn't personal, the way Nate's was, but it was big and shiny and expensive, and I reacted way bigger to it. Full excited. Squeal, kissed my boyfriend, held the bag up, showed everybody at the table. Suddenly that purse became the star of the night. It sat right there on the table like a centerpiece. Everybody commenting on it, passing it around, asking how much it cost. Nate's book got slipped back into the gift bag and set down by my chair, quietly out of sight. I didn't do it to be mean. I wasn't consciously trying to humiliate him. I was just caught up in the attention of the whole thing. But I do remember looking up at one point and catching his face from across the table. And something about it was different, usually when he looked at me. There was that same warm, eager expression like some golden retriever waiting for approval. This time, there was none of that. He just looked worn out flat, like something in him had finally gone still. He left early, said he had work in the morning. I barely registered it, just said, okay, and went back to drinking the next morning. I woke up and did the usual sleepy check my phone routine, and something felt weird immediately. No good morning text, not even a meme or some stupid little emoji. Nothing, first time that had happened in years. I figured maybe his phone died, or he overslept, or was hungover. I sent him a quick message, said, thanks again for the book. It was perfect, asked if he got home. All right, no response. A couple hours went by, still nothing at that point. I started getting irritated, not worried, irritated. So I checked his socials to see if he was active, couldn't find his profile, thought. Maybe I misspelled it. Somehow searched again, nothing like he'd been erased. I texted one of our mutual friends and asked if she could see him. She replied right away. Yeah, he's there. He just posted a gym story. That was when my stomach kinda dropped, not fully, but enough. I went back to our messages and tried to send another text and it failed, just sat there and wouldn't go through. That's when it clicked. He hadn't gone quiet by accident. He had blocked me everywhere. My number, Instagram, everything else, just total shutdown. No heads up, no final conversation, no explanation, just gone. And my first reaction was not sadness. It wasn't concern either. It was rage, straight up hot anger. Who the hell did he think he was after everything I had given him? And yes, that is how I framed it in my head. I let him be close to me. I made space for him in my life. I listened to him talk about his tedious office stories and family nonsense and whatever else. I included him, I mattered to him, and then he just disappeared on me like I was nothing. It felt petty, immature, passive-aggressive as hell. To me, it looked like textbook fragile male behavior, couldn't handle his feelings. So instead of talking like an adult, he ran. That night, I complained about it to my boyfriend. He barely even looked away from his phone, just shrugged and said something like, "Sounds like the guy was way too into you anyway, probably better this way," which was not helpful at all, didn't make me feel better, didn't explain anything. If anything, it just made the whole thing feel even colder. The silence after that was bizarre for the first few days. I kept expecting some kind of message, maybe from another number or an email or some long dramatic apology, explaining he overreacted. Nothing ever came, and what really got to me was how much his absence messed with my routine. I'd post something and then feel this weird little sting when his instant like never showed up. I'd have a bad day and automatically reach for my phone to vent to him. Then remember, I couldn't, it was like a reflex with nowhere to go. I'd gotten so used to him being there that the empty space felt unnatural. I missed my audience, my comfort person, my backup supply of validation. Everything felt quieter without him, flatter, less secure somehow, and I honestly could not understand it. From my point of view, I had been a good friend. I never lied to him. I never promised him a relationship. I had always been clear, at least that's what I believed. If he chose to fall for me anyway, that wasn't my fault. That was his issue to manage, not mine, and now somehow I was the one getting punished for it. After a while, the anger started turning into something else. Not guilt, not yet, more like this obsessive need to know. I had to figure out why he'd done it. I needed an answer. I needed closure, or at least that's what I told myself. Really, I needed some kind of answer that made me feel less insane. So I started poking around with our mutual friends, trying to get information without sounding too obvious about it. They were all annoyingly vague, super careful. Like, they'd all agreed on the same script stuff, like, he's just taking time for himself right now. Or, I think he's focusing on his own life, which told me absolutely nothing. One of them did accidentally say something useful, though she mentioned that Nate had some long talk recently with his best friend. And I knew exactly who she meant. His best friend had never liked me, not once, every time I was around him. He gave me this look like he could see through me, like I was some manipulative cartoon villain. I always hated that. So the second I heard they had had some deep conversation, I knew what I believed happened. He got in Nate's ear, filled his head with garbage about me, using him convinced him I was toxic or selfish or whatever. And it made me furious, because from my point of view, I was getting turned into the bad guy in a situation where I had only ever tried to be kind. That was how I framed it to myself. Weeks passed, Nate stayed gone, no message, no explanation. Life kept moving, but there was this weird empty space where he used to be, and around the same time, things with my boyfriend started getting worse, way worse, without Nate around to soak up all my stress and complaints. All that frustration had nowhere to go, so it started going directly at my boyfriend, which he did not appreciate at all. Our fights got more frequent, more sharp, more exhausting. He started staying out later, started acting even more distant than usual, and every time I tried to talk about how disconnected I felt, he'd hit me with the same kind of thing. You're too much, you're overreacting, you're too emotional. Basically the exact opposite of what Nate always used to tell me. Nate used to make me feel understood. My boyfriend made me feel embarrassing. And without that constant reassurance in my ear, I started getting more insecure by the day. I hated how much it affected me, but it did, and somewhere in there, I started missing Nate. Not just the attention either, not just the texts and the fast replies and the compliments. I missed him. I missed his dumb jokes the way he always had time, the way he never made me feel like a burden. I missed knowing there was at least one person on the planet who looked at me like I could do no wrong. And once that thought got in, another one started creeping in behind it. Maybe I had messed up. Maybe I'd taken him for granted. That thought made me deeply uncomfortable, so most of the time, I shoved it away as fast as it showed up. Because being angry at him was easier. Anger was cleaner. Anger let me stay righteous. It was much easier to tell myself he was immature for leaving than to sit with the possibility that he had a reason. It was easier to blame his friend or fragile masculinity or wounded male ego, or literally anything else that didn't point back at me. So I stayed mad, I fed it on purpose. I kept repeating the same story in my head. He was the one who threw away a good friendship, because he couldn't handle being rejected. He was the one acting dramatic. He was the one punishing me over hurt feelings, which meant I was the victim, and I really, really needed to be the victim, because the other version of the story was unbearable. The other version meant my friend had been right when she said I was using him. It meant his best friend had been right to glare at me like that. It meant that, on some level, deep down, I had known exactly what I was doing the whole time, and I was absolutely not ready to look at that. Yet, not even close then, about a month after Nate vanished, everything with my boyfriend finally blew up, not in some dramatic screaming match way. Either, honestly, it was worse because it was so lame. We were supposed to go to a concert together. I'd been excited about it for weeks, had my outfit picked out and everything. Then about an hour before we were supposed to leave, he texted me. Texted, not even called, just said, "Can't make it tonight. Not feeling well." And I knew immediately he was lying. Just one of those gut-level things. I called him. Right away, went straight to voicemail, called again, same thing. Later that night, one of my friends sent me a screenshot. It was from some girl's story, and there he was, my boyfriend out at a bar, looking perfectly healthy arm, around another girl, like he belonged there, and I just felt everything inside me drop. Wasn't even shock, not really, more like this heavy numb feeling of, Yeah, of course this is what was happening. Of course this is how it ends. The actual breakup text came the next morning, something bland and cowardly, like, I don't think this is working. I need space, just the most generic weak man exit possible. I was wrecked, completely wrecked. But worse than heartbroken, I felt alone, like genuinely alone. For the first time in a long time, my friends did what friends do. They came over, brought junk food, let me cry, told me he sucked, and I appreciated it. But it wasn't the same. They had jobs and partners and their own problems. They couldn't be on call 24 hours a day. They couldn't give me that instant, constant emotional IV drip I had gotten used to. Only Nate had ever done that, and sitting there in that miserable, wrecked state, all I wanted was him. I wanted to talk to him so badly it actually hurt. I wanted him to tell me I was gorgeous and brilliant, and my ex was an idiot. I wanted him to patch up my ego, the way he always did. I wanted my safety net back. All the anger I'd been carrying toward him just dissolved, replaced by this desperate, ugly need. I had to reach him somehow. My number was still blocked, all my main accounts were still blocked too. So I did something pathetic. I asked one of my friends if I could use her phone for a second, found his number, sent him a text from hers. Said, Nate, it's Claire. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but something really awful happened. I need my friend right now. Then I sat there staring at the screen, waiting. After a few seconds, the typing bubbles appeared, 3 little dots, and my heart immediately started hammering. He was answering. He still cared. He had to. Then the dots disappeared, no message came through, nothing, just silence again. About a minute later, my friend's phone buzzed for one stupid, hopeful second. I thought it was him replying to me. It wasn't, it was a message to my friend. He said, I think Claire is using your phone. Please don't let her contact me again. That was it, clean, direct, cold as hell. He saw exactly what I was doing immediately and shut it down, without giving me an inch. The humiliation was instant and physical, like heat rushing through my whole body. My face burned, my chest tightened up. I wanted to disappear, because he hadn't just rejected me. He had done it in a way that made me look ridiculous in front of my friend too. Now I wasn't just dumped and blocked. I was also that pathetic girl who couldn't take the hint. The unstable ex-friend borrowing other people's phones to force contact. And suddenly that was me. That really should have been the end. That should have been the moment where I accepted the humiliation, salvaged whatever dignity I still had, and backed off. But I was in a full spiral by then. So much of my self-worth had been built on male attention. The chaotic, intoxicating attention from my ex. The constant, dependable attention from Nate. And now, both of those sources were gone, just cut off. And without them, I felt invisible, hollow, like I had no weight as a person unless somebody wanted me, and in my messed up state, the only solution I could think of was getting one of them back. My ex was obviously a dead end. He was already posting with the new girl, like I'd never existed. But Nate had been in love with me for years. You don't just switch that off overnight. That was what I kept telling myself. He wasn't over me. He was just hurt. His pride was bruised. I just had to find the right angle, the right thing to say, the right way to soften him back up. I started rationalizing like crazy. Maybe the blocking was some kind of test. Maybe he wanted me to prove I cared. Maybe he wanted me to chase him for once, which is the kind of embarrassing logic. Only a desperate person can convince herself makes sense. But I convinced myself anyway. I spent days obsessing, scrolling through old pictures of us, reading old texts, every message full of compliments and instant availability and devotion. It was all right there. Proof of how much power I used to have in that dynamic, and I could not handle the fact that it had flipped. So my brain moved straight into strategy mode. What did he want from me? What was the one thing I had always kept, just out of reach? The answer was painfully obvious. I had always kept him at a distance, always held the line, at friendship, always refused to give him the thing he actually wanted. So what if I gave it to him now? What if I showed him? I was finally open to more. It started with a burner account. New social media profile, generic username, no photo. Nothing that tied back to me. It felt sad and a little unhinged, but by then I was way past being embarrassed by my own behavior. I found his page easily. Of course, he hadn't blocked an account that didn't exist yet. And suddenly I could see everything, and what I saw made me feel sick. He looked good, like genuinely good. He'd been posting gym photos, looked stronger than before, more filled out, healthier. There were pictures of him out with friends, including his smug best friend. Which annoyed me immediately, everybody laughing, everybody relaxed. He'd posted about a promotion, better title, better office, whatever it was. The point was obvious: he was building a whole life that had no trace of me in it. None. And the worst part was, he seemed happier, lighter, like cutting me out had actually improved things for him, which felt like the deepest insult of all, because it meant I hadn't just been some painful thing. He survived. It meant I might have actually been dragging him down, and now that I was gone, he was thriving. Then I saw him tagged in a picture with some girl. She wasn't stunning or glamorous or anything dramatic, just normal, pretty in a soft, understated way. They were in a group shot, standing near each other, but his body was angled slightly toward her. Subtle, but obvious enough if you were looking for it, and I was definitely looking for it. The jealousy hit so hard it actually felt physical, like getting punched in the chest, and it was this ugly, possessive jealousy too. Not because I suddenly wanted him. I still didn't, not really, but I also didn't want some other girl getting the version of him that had belonged to me, because in my head, he was still mine in this weird, sick way. My admirer, my backup source, my emotional property. And that was the moment I made the worst decision of the whole story. I decided to go all the way, no half measures, just burn through the last boundary I had left. I told myself this was secretly what he'd always wanted. He'd spent years putting me on some pedestal, so all I had to do was step down off it and hand him what he'd been waiting for. One night I was home alone feeling miserable, had a couple glasses of wine in me, just enough to make bad ideas feel brave. I opened the fake account, went into his messages, sat there staring at the screen for a while, then finally typed, "I miss you," and then I did the really pathetic part. I took a few pictures not fully explicit but suggestive enough that there was no confusion about what I was offering. I looked good too, I knew I did, and in my mind, that was my ace, my last guaranteed move for all those years. This was the version of me he'd wanted, not friend me, not safe platonic me, the other version, the one that meant possibility. And now I was finally putting that in front of him. I attached the pictures, added another message, said something like, "I was stupid, I can't stop thinking about you. Maybe we should talk." Then I hit send and waited. At first I felt weirdly confident. The wine helping. Obviously I pictured him opening it and losing his mind. First shocked, then excited, then texting back instantly, like he couldn't believe this was happening, because in my head, this was the ending he'd always wanted. He'd finally won. That's how I was still thinking of it, like some long game where the prize was me. So I kept checking my phone every few seconds, every half minute, every tiny vibration, making my stomach jump. Minutes dragged into almost an hour. Then the scene receipt popped up. He had opened it, he had seen the message, seen the pictures, and my heart started pounding so hard, it felt ridiculous. Come on, Nate, say something, anything. Another hour passed, nothing. The silence got unbearable. I started telling myself he was probably just trying to act cool, trying to make me sweat the way he'd sweated for me. Maybe he wanted me to feel uncertain for once, and honestly, it was working. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I sent another message almost right away. The typing bubble appeared, and I swear my whole body locked up. This was it finally. I held my breath, waiting for this big emotional response, and what came through instead was so much worse because it was calm. Just two flat sentences, cold and simple and final. "I'm seeing someone now. Please don't contact me again." I read it once, then again, and it genuinely didn't compute. At first, it felt like I'd opened the wrong conversation. This was not how this was supposed to go. I was offering him exactly what he'd always wanted, the thing he had spent years hoping for. And he was turning it down for what? For that quiet-looking girl in the photo. I started typing back immediately, full panic mode, telling him it was me, telling him I was finally ready, telling him this was supposed to happen, that we were supposed to end up together. I tried to send it, and it failed. Message wouldn't go through. Then the notification came up. I couldn't message him anymore. He had blocked that account too instantly. Didn't even wait to see what else I'd say. Just shut the door again, and I sat there staring at the screen, at my own desperate messages, at my own photos. And suddenly they didn't look powerful or tempting or bold. They looked humiliating, cheap, sad. The full weight of what I'd done hit all at once. I hadn't just gotten rejected. I had degraded myself completely. I had basically thrown my body and my feelings at him, like some last-minute clearance bin, begging him to take what he used to want. And he had looked at it, decided it had no value to him anymore, and walked away. That was the moment the truth finally landed. The guy I had always treated like my safe option, my reliable fallback, my always there reserve source of affection, didn't want me anymore. Not as a friend, not as a girlfriend, not even as something casual or convenient. He didn't want any version of me, and once that sank in, everything else came with it. He wasn't the toxic one. His best friend wasn't the toxic one either. I was the one who used people. I was the one who turned human beings into emotional utilities. I was the manipulative one, the selfish one. Nate hadn't just been a friend I leaned on. He had been my crutch, my supply. And the second he learned how to stand without me, I tried to drag him back down so I could keep using him. He didn't leave because he was weak. He left because he was finally strong enough not to stay strong enough to pick his own peace over my comfort. Strong enough to choose an actual life, instead of orbiting mine forever. I'm still blocked everywhere. Number, socials, all of it. Every now and then, I still see him in mutual friends' stories. Him and that girl are officially together now. And they look happy too. Not fake social media. Happy, actually. Happy, calm, solid, real. My ex is just some embarrassing memory. Now my friends still talk to me, but there's caution there now. Like they saw something in me they can't fully unsee, and the safety net I thought would always be waiting is gone for good. So now there's just silence, a lot of silence and way too much time to think. And weirdly, the thing I keep coming back to most is that book he gave me on my birthday, that careful, thoughtful, perfect gift. The one I shoved aside because something louder and shinier showed up. I still have it. It's on my shelf. Sometimes I look at it for a long time, and all I feel is this quiet, empty space, like the outline of a good man who used to be there and isn't anymore.